One of the reasons I was interested in doing my analysis of Second Life was because many years ago, many meaning 8 or 9, my father actually bought me an account for something called Alpha World, which was a similar to Second Life kind of virtual online reality three-dimensional world that you could participate in. I checked it out, but it was so complicated in terms of how to get objects into the 3D space, and I knew nothing at that point about 3D modeling and animation. And it didn't really interest me as much as more hands-on art forms. Still, it was interesting, and when I did my teaching credential, I wrote a presentation basically showing how there were some people in Alpha World creating online virtual exhibits and educational pieces that you could use. I find this kind of interesting. That was about 6 years ago. So this is not a new topic at all, how virtual worlds can be used in an educational setting. So once you begin your voyage into Second Life, you end up on Orientation Island. And actually, Orientation Island really shows everything that you can do educationally in Second Life, or at least most of what you can do. It's got some really neat features about it. The first thing you have to do in any kind of virtual world is learn how to maneuver and move around. And here's where another really cool thing about Second Life begins. Something many of us would love to do in real life. Not only can you jump up and down really, really high, and squat, but Second Life also gives you the opportunity to be able to fly. Since time first began, man has cast his envious gaze upon the birds. Well, now you too can fly, and you can pretty much maneuver anywhere you want in Second Life by flying around. I actually had fun for like 25 minutes just doing, loops and stuff like that and playing around with this. So on with the show. When you do your tasks, basically to get off of Orientation Island and explore the rest of Second Life, you have to pass tests. So as you interact with objects, for example, clicking on the sign will start a little quiz where it will have me use the chat interface to say a message. Once I say a little message, it'll make my avatar, the name for my little character that I've created, Skimdog Ocean Lane, will make him jump up and down and be really, really happy. You may notice there's a naked guy. This is, as in a virtual world, you're going to be with other people, and some of them may have different political or social choices than yourself. I didn't actually have a conversation with this fellow, but maybe he's a nudist. I don't know in real life. It's kind of a question there. But anyways, as I go through these tasks by basically looking at the little pop-ups on the signs that are there and following their directions and learning about the program, you might notice after this screen disappears, there's a little puzzle piece, and the little stars on the puzzle pieces fill in. Basically, they've created a game using this Second Life interface where objects you can interact with them, and then they'll prompt you to do things, and can even then add manipulations to your character. And looking into it, it's pretty tricky to actually do. So the implementation of something like this, I would say, is one step higher than doing something in, let's say, Flash. But it's very powerful. If you can imagine a kid who maybe doesn't like reading or having to do quizzes, what if they could interact with a world with characters and in between play around with, flying in between their test questions? It would definitely add motivation for a lot of students, I feel like, particularly younger students. But, I mean, I had a blast. This is probably the most fun project I've had to do yet, just because part of it was playing around in this virtual world. So now I've got 2 stars filled in. I have to do one more task in order to save Orientation Island from a angry volcano, and then I'll be able to move on to my other tasks. This was the chat interface task, and I'll have to do the move using search and the maps, and then how to accessorize my character. I'm not going to make you watch all of those, but you might notice some changes next time you see me. There I am. So this was after completing all the tasks and making my own unique avatar. So our next stop in the tour of Second Life is going to be an owned island. So one thing institutions can do is they can purchase land. If you have a regular membership, $10 a month, you'll get a small plot of land that you can build on. So it's not too bad for a small educator to build something. Large organizations, by shelling out about $1,500 and I think $300 a month, can own an island where they can create all of the content for that entire island. The University of Vassar has created, amongst other things, the Sistine Chapel in Second Life. So they've done a recreation, and you can walk in, and it shows some of the other really powerful educational uses of these kind of virtual worlds. Something else interesting that happened while I was in the Sistine Chapel is I came upon a librarian from a university. We had a long conversation, actually. I only showed the part with me flirting with her. You can see my sexy emote right there. But basically, we were talking about some of the educational uses in Second Life, and she's actually working on a project sort of making a tour for the new librarians about what they can do in Second Life so they can talk to people at the university about it. So it was a very interesting conversation, and it was much more enriching than the naked guy from the previous part. So let's take a look excuse me, at the Sistine Chapel. One thing that you can do that you can't do in the real world is you can get up close and personal with the artwork and with the architecture. So you could never actually get up to the ceiling and really examine how something looks, but you can in Second Life. The other neat thing is when people put artwork and stuff on the walls or sculptures, they can also leave tags on it. So you see I was able to click it and I was able to get this text from Wikipedia. So you could easily add in a quiz, well not easily, but you could add in a quiz or other sorts of interactive pieces to this. But just the ability to use it as an art gallery is pretty cool, particularly from my perspective as not only an art teacher, but somebody who teaches 3D modeling and animation now. I'm already figuring out I might try out the $10 membership and see if I can get my students' work in Second Life, have a little online gallery of their work, something in progress I'm looking at. I definitely can't afford 1,500 clams to have my own island, but maybe someday. So as Little Red Riding Hood prepares to take you to a quick tour of Florence while I talk a little bit more about some of the interesting facts about Second Life. One interesting feature is the ability to teleport from web pages directly into Second Life locations. So what I'm going to do in a second here is take you to Florence, or at least the Second Life recreation of Florence, where we can do a little bit of shopping and see the Duomo and a fairly shallow replica of the David. But what I can do is actually find the URL either through the search interface in the map, or if I go online, there's actually a list of locations, and there's something called a slurl, S-L-U-R-L, Second Life URL, that you can use to instantly teleport to a location from a web page, which is kind of a cool feature I noticed. So this is now we're in Florence. People actually buy stuff using real money in Second Life, and in other online role-playing games. In fact, one estimate was that about $1 million American dollars are spent every day by the 10 million residents in Second Life. And I wasn't quite sure if that $1 million is something that kind of gets recycled, or if that's like new dollars into the economy. I doubt it's new dollars, but who knows? It's possible. Some other interesting things: over 125 universities and colleges have used Second Life educationally. And Symantec has warned authorities about the possibility of criminals using Second Life and World of Warcraft for money laundering schemes. Our last stop in the Second Life universe is going to be to a Smoodle. So we all know what a Moodle is, an online class management system. And a Smoodle is the same sort of thing, but in Second Life. So a virtual world or Second Life Moodle. And this is a specific Moodle that's been designed as sort of a test case for using this sort of application. It has some fairly significant advantages. One, that you can do collaborative learning if not in person, but close to person. And you can also create tangible objects in the space. And you can see how my little foxy dude is interacting with the physical location in a way that you just simply can't do with a regular Moodle. I don't know whether this would increase, productivity or use of the Moodle, but it's certainly fun. Another interesting piece of research by Rebecca Nesson, who is a professor at Cambridge. She has a virtual online class, and she's found that there's some significant advantages to doing it distance learning through Second Life rather than through regular Moodles and distance education software. She's found that it creates a better sense of community, almost as much as in a face-to-face class. It's great for English language learners who can take their time to read and type discussions. Less likelihood of people dominating the discussion because you can either type over them, or sometimes you don't use voice at all and it's all by typing. Also, people who are less likely to contribute find it easier to contribute in the online setting. You may remember me doing my flexing muscle shirt thing for the poor librarian in the Sistine Chapel. That's probably not something I would do in real life. In fact, it's a lot easier to create a presentation like this in a movie rather than stand in front of the class and do it, which is also something that helps people who are less likely to contribute in a class.